Elden Ring fans ravenous for Shadow of the Erdtree announcement after back-end Steam update. I burped. Elden Ring fans have grown ravenous for a Shadow of the Erdtree expansion announcement after developer FromSoftware made a change to the game's back-end on Steam. We have to scroll nowadays, so sometimes it's...
So I'm not used to like controlling it for him, so this is my fault. Anyways, continue.
X/Twitter, we can just call it Twitter, user and Elden Ring YouTuber Ziostorm noticed the change on Steam DB's page for Elden Ring, sharing an image of a new application added to the downloadable content section of Elden Ring's Steam page for the first time since launch. Quote, I'm not saying it's 100% Shadow of the Erdtree, but that's a pretty good chance it is, they said, and fans are similarly hopeful elsewhere online. Announcement must be imminent, Joe Rad said on Reddit. Definitely, it's a matter of days now, or even less, Hector_Savage_ says. This update also adds fuel to the fire of a previous rumor as a leaked collaboration between Elden Ring publisher Bandai Namco and accessory creator Thrustmaster also suggested a February release of Shadow of the Erdtree. That being said, it's not the first time Elden Ring fans have grown a bit out of hand, anticipating an announcement after growing incredibly confident about a reveal at the Game Awards 2023, an announcement that obviously never came. And...
announcement that never came, according to IGN there, man. Someone on their editing team needs to step up their fucking
Jesus, man.
Here,
Okay.
I'm just saying. That's an easy fix.
Fair enough. But point is... Elden Ring's Shadow of the Erdtree is on the horizon. You can kind of tell that was going to come sooner or later due to the fact that we didn't see anything besides a promotional image last year. And now that a year has gone by, it's about time we see something. February, I doubt it. They aren't really known for, at least in the past, I believe, dropping things on a moment's notice. And now that we're in the closing up to the middle of January, it'd be surprising if we saw anything like we actually are in the middle of January. Now that we're in the middle of January, having not seen anything, most likely not February, but we do have a presentation coming up. Is this going to be there? I'd say no.
You're talking the Developer Direct from
Developer
Xbox?
Direct, yeah. It's not,
I was just thinking about that. It doesn't feel likely.
It doesn't, no.
No. Because I feel like Xbox would much rather keep that focused on what they've got going on over there.
They need it.
There are rumors of a PlayStation State of Play or PlayStation Showcase of some kind, something happening, probably a State of Play happening here soon. So if I were to guess, probably from there, FromSoftware's relationship with PlayStation has always been strong. Now, granted, Elden Ring is a multi-platform game, along with Armored Core 6, right? Armored Core 6. Yeah. So there's a chance it could land there. I think that'd be a great headline title for PlayStation. I imagine that would drop sometime in February. So is it possible? Yes. Is it going to have a release date? I don't know. Feels weird to drop an update for a DLC that doesn't have a release date. They did recently, in the last couple of months or so, release a statement saying, hey, it's going to be a little while, like it's a little, or one of the directors or something said, hey, man, it's
Miyazaki himself said that.
Yeah, don't expect it too soon. I would assume that was meant to just say, hey, it's not coming in 2023, is probably what I assume what that purpose of that statement was.
That's why I knew it wasn't coming during the Game Awards. Part of me is, of course, hopeful. I'm a nerd and FromSoftware loser, as you can see from that thing back there. But you can barely see it.
Yeah, this is a bad shot for it. Hold on.
Hey.
I got you. No, you can barely see it in that one too.
Oh, damn it! It's the wide shot where you see it.
I don't think it's in the wide shot either.
Damn, fuck! Yeah. All right, that's
one day it'll be in the wide shot. It'll be up there one day. We're troubleshooting the new set.
Point is, it wasn't coming last year. I'd be surprised if it didn't come this year. They clearly are putting a lot of work into this DLC. I think comparative to the old Hunters DLC from Bloodborne, one of the greatest DLCs ever made, they came out with it not too far after the initial release. This one, I think they'd be going for something more ambitious, considering what Elden Ring is. And they'll probably add a whole other new world that you can go to.
I'm expecting a scale on the level of a Witcher 3
Blood and Wine. Yeah.
Blood and Wine. Thank you. I was I wanted to say Blood and Truth, and I'm like, that's not it.
I know that so intrinsically. Just the name. I've never played the Blood and Wine DLC.
It's excellent.
I know. That's why I want to play it.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really good. You can buy a house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With your wife, whoever that might be. Right? I saw that.
I don't know. I don't know.
thought
Unifer showed up for me. I've only ever seen. Oh, Triss can show up or something.
It wouldn't make sense if she didn't.
Yeah. But I played it with Unifer because Unifer is the right choice. Anyways, no, but I'm expecting big things out of the Elden Ring DLC. Elden Ring obviously was one of the biggest games of all time and huge in 2022. Winning Game of the Year at the Game Awards and being. No, it wasn't even top 3 for us, was it? No, it wasn't because of my dumbass, not putting it on the list. Kept it out of the top 3 right there. I think it was number 4. I think it was number 4. I have the fucking notes right here. I can just look it up. But no, I'm expecting big things here, man. It's been 2 years since the release of Elden Ring. They've put out lots and lots of updates, since then, and improved performance and stuff. There hasn't been any content updates though, correct? Like nothing content-wise. Maybe new items or something.
Yes, they updated the multiplayer, which I need to jump back into. They made it way easier to get in like traditional multiplayer matches. Honestly, very similar to what they have with Armored Core 6, where it kind of does like a little preamble at the beginning. I think Elden Ring has that. It certainly is structured the same way, starting off on one end of the other. They've added, because that opened with like these coliseums in the area. They opened up across the maps, as well as tons of weapon updates that completely changed some of the properties of attacks and weapons that you can use. So they've done work to it, but this would be the first time they've done something truly substantial that'll get a lot of eyes on it.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm totally wrong. Elden Ring was in fact in our top 3 last year. I guess, depending on how you talk about it. 2022. It was in our top 3 for 2022. It was number 3.
Who was number 1 again? God of War.
God of War.
Yeah.
God of War. Because it was on all 3 of our lists. It was number 1 for, I believe, both me and Phil. It was just, because it's got 29.
Yeah,
I wrote down the point totals and 29 points for God of War Ragnarok. Because you had it at number 2.
Yeah, I did. And I remember Phil was like, cracking his back because he was like, I don't know if I should put Elden Ring at number 1 or God of War, and he decided God of War.
It was the topic of conversation. You know, it was between those two. For certain. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to just hear what happens, to just see what happens. Am I going to play it myself? Absolutely not. Will you, though?
Oh, you got to be fucking kidding me. I'm going to be on there day 1. And by the way, I should note a source of pride for me. Last year, when we didn't know when this was exactly coming out, Tavin got it on his fantasy critic pick.
Yeah.
Something that we've started again this year,
yeah.
where we've drafted games and, hopefully they get high scores on Open Critic because that will determine who gets a free game. And 2 free games.
Ladies, that was the deal. Phil was talking about maybe just like $100 buy-in or some shit.
Oh, he would say that now.
He wants to say it now, right. Because his list fucking sucks, isn't that right? We fucking got this shit, don't we, my boy?
We do. It's between you and me, and I got Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree.
Yeah.
Because I remember the feeling of you getting that. The guy who's not a fan of Elden Ring.
Yeah.
It hurt.
Because I got it before it was even given a title. It was Elden Ring's unannounced DLC or whatever.
That's what
is when I got it.
So thank you, Miyazaki, for not coming out with it that year. Please come out with it this year. Please.
How badly are we gonna crush this motherfucker this year, bro? It's gonna be so bad.
He's got so comfortable with his first spot last year. His comfortable one.
Dude, have you seen the updated page in a while?
Did he do more?
He's got 2 slots.
No, yeah, that's 2. He jumped the gun.
He's jumped the gun. Now, granted, there's some slots on that page that are not going to get filled, but the problem is when will they be announced as not being filled? That's or not releasing this year rather. That's the problem he's going to have to fight. Metal Gear Solid Delta, not a fucking shot in hell that game is coming out this year. Phil, go kick rocks, you fucking loser.
Hey, Phil, I know you're probably sitting pretty with your fiance or whatever they call that nowadays.
Gay.
Yeah, very gay. And I'm just here to tell you, you're going to lose. You've already lost. You fucking loser. Hey, come on. I'm waiting for the text tomorrow, huh? Come on.
Come on.
You watch this stuff, I don't.
Oh, he definitely does not get this deep into it.
No.
Absolutely not. You fucking loser. Anyways, Elden Ring, I think for sure is coming out this year, right? Like,
no,
there's no chance.
Be surprised if it didn't.
Yeah.
The only thing I don't want is for us to keep talking about fucking layoffs because this is way more fun to talk about.
Connor, we're going to.
I know we are. I know.
Now, Connor, the big two questions are: when does this update? When does this announcement happen? And when is it coming out?
It's probably like an autumn.
Release date?
I'm wanting to say like a July summer update.
Yeah.
But I feel like they'd want more time on it because I'm expecting the scope to be big.
See, the thing is like surely it's being released this year. Surely, right?
I mean, hey,
so you're
development
looking
problems happen.
You're looking. I think autumn is probably safe. Sometime in autumn, maybe late fall or something. Maybe even early winter or something like that. Well, I guess winter is December 20th, but I think latest this releases is November. Sometime in November is the latest I can see this going.
That's when games start kind of slowing down. You only have a couple of big releases, ideally. And so they can make it even big. They already do good when they announce this, but I think dominating that time of the year would be a good idea.
I think so as well. But I also think that this is going to be such a massive update. Again, on the level of Witcher 3 Blood and Wine. I think this is going to be such a massive update that like you have to put it out or you have to have a marketing beat for it in order to hit where it's going. Are the letters on these things fading? The letters are fading.
I look at that each time and oh shit, maybe it is.
No, yeah. I mean, look at my
It
team
definitively is. Yeah, mine is too.
Yeah. That sucks.
Hand wash from now on.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what to do. Anyways,
gift, by
you
the
need
way.
a marketing lead up for this.
Yeah.
Like you need to be able to let the people know that hey, turn on your Elden Ring. Come back, please come back. We spent a lot of time on this, and I imagine they're going to give something that is sizable to the original game. Like even obviously not going to be quite as big. I'd be shocked if they liked up with the size, but it would probably be, I don't know, maybe the size of an Armored Core 6.
Could be. Well, actually, that map is bigger than Elden Rings, I believe, because you're bigger.
Armored Core?
I believe so. The reason
It's
why
all broken up.
Yeah, but I think I remember seeing a post of someone like, I'm going to compare the maps, putting on top of one another, and Armored Core is bigger because you're giant robots going through, smaller landscapes.
That's stupid. That's dumb. Just
They
because the
compare
size
the
of your
map.
character is huge, so they're blowing it up per scale model. That's ridiculous.
I mean, it would make sense when you see all the trees and how big you are compared to them.
I mean, yes,
Cars and whatnot.
Yes, but like you would have to. Yes, the size of the map is probably of all the maps put together is probably bigger. Yes, but that's just because your player character is bigger.
Yeah,
So everything is smaller.
yeah. That's how math works, Tavin.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean there's more geometry that you as a player can go through.
I don't know, man.
There's not a shot in the world, Armored Core 6. If you lay out all of the maps and all of the levels, there's not a shot in the world that it is bigger than Elden Ring if you compare it 1-to-1.
Probably not 1-to-1.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But that's not what we do. We just compare it as it is to how the other one is.
No, you're doing extra math. You're doing extra math to blow it up and make it seem bigger than it is. When you, come
I'm
on now.
not
Let's-
doing
let's
extra
be, let's
math.
be,
I'm
let's
saying
be,
someone else
let's
calculated
be
that.
real. Anyways, no, but it's probably going to be about like in terms of the amount of content in it, probably about the size of Armored Core 6, I imagine.
Oh, I'm so looking forward to it, man.
Maybe a little less than Armored Core 6, but you should be expecting what 12 hours of content,
More.
20,
Yeah.
yeah.
Minimum, probably. No,
Yeah.
I wouldn't need minimum. I would just say that's probably what they
You
would
keep
go.
bringing up the old hunters for Bloodborne. How much content is that
Well, that's I can look it
in
up.
terms of hour count? Yeah, 'cause
It's pretty bulky.
Yeah.
And that's something that's not as wide as what
I mean, it's
Elden
hard
Ring
to
is.
judge. The Dark Souls games usually get DLCs and so forth, but I don't ever hear anything about Dark Souls 3.
Oh, amazing DLC.
I'm sure it is. But I don't hear that as like, oh man, go play that. I hear that from Bloodborne players.
The problem is that it's kind of a 2-part DLC.
Yeah.
The world painted world of Ariandel, which was like, oh, it's a good DLC, and then you have
Sizably, what's the biggest
Ringed City. Oh, wait, as far as like
individual DLC pack that you bought and paid?
Ringed City, I would say the second DLC for Dark Souls 3.
Yeah?
'Cause there's a whole like city. There's more bosses overall. Maybe the same. Let me see. Playtime. I want to. Because I'm curious. I actually can't remember.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot.
Oh shit! Only like 5 to 8 hours. I'm gonna say 8 for like
In
normal
Old
people.
Hunters?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It seems longer because trial and error, and it has some of the
Because you fucking suck.
Hey,
You're a
in my
trash-ass player, admit it.
in my fairness, it has what is considered before Millennia like the second hardest boss in all of Souls series, and just really, really good hard bosses on its base level, even without comparing it. So, however many times you're gonna have to go through that, it's gonna take longer than 8 hours. I feel. At least mine was. Shut up.
I'm very interested. So you think 20 hours minimum for Elden Ring still?
Yeah,
Interesting.
I think they'll make a whole entire like separate world.
It's been
in the
2
same-
years.
Yeah, it has been. And I think, if you just look at regions in Elden Ring, they take about that long to do everything in it.
That's a big game.
Yeah, it's a very big game.
Very big.
I spent, on my first playthrough where I tried to do as much as I possibly could, 167 hours. Maybe I got into 174. So,
Nice.
yeah. I spent
Good
a long-
content. God damn, they're fucking good.
Yeah.
And they only charge $60 for that?
Yeah.
60 or 70?
It's almost as if 60. It's almost as if you don't need to charge 70s, and that's only for greedy purposes. But couldn't. That's ridiculous. These companies that we talk about laying off entire
Listen, man, if
core
they
of their
charge,
workers.
would you be mad if they charged $100?
Yeah,
Really?
because they're making tons of money.
You said nearly 200. You said nearly 200 hours of content on your first playthrough.
I would pay it. Don't get me wrong. I
Yeah.
would pay it. But I would know if you charge this for $60, as they did, they would be one of the biggest selling games of that year, which they were. And so they didn't need to.
How much is Shadow of the Erdtree?
$40, if at
Yeah.
the most. 30 was the original old Hunter's DLC, and that was a $60 game, Bloodborne, I should say. So I feel like they would probably bump that at least up to $40. That would be justifiable if it's like 20 hours
2
long.
years of work at least. Yeah, I'm curious if they would do 50.
They might, and that'd be justifiable as well. Because considering all of the games that we play that are under the length of Elden Ring, which, as I said, was like upwards of 100 hours,
Yeah.
and charge $60 for that, $50 for a good sized game, the length of a regular sized game.
I mean, the
would make
the
sense.
pricing model is so interesting to talk about off the back of God of War Ragnarok Valhalla being free to play and being about 10 hours of content, 8 to 10, maybe 6 if you're really putting pedal to the metal there. But I didn't. I probably put about 8 to 10 hours into that piece of content right there, and it was a sizable piece of content and so forth. And that was to be a free update for that is impressive. Now I'm not expecting that from a From Software title at all or anything like that, but it does engage in the conversation of if you're 20 hours. How much is that worth? How much work went in? How much art? And how much are you willing to charge? How valuable is that product you're willing to put out? Now, again, a team like FromSoft, who consistently put out super high quality titles and usually give us way more content than a lot of these other games out here for the same price or, arguably even cheaper, I would be totally fine if they upped their prices and said, no, man, we're charging X, we're charging 80, we're charging 90, for full games, games, that is. Maybe not for titles like Armored Core 6, but titles like Elden Ring, I think totally understandable to charge even up to $100 for that type of game.
My issue is it stays the same, which is that these companies make tons of money off of $60 games alone. A $10 price increase was unnecessary. Once again, and I'll point to the layoffs we constantly talk about, it didn't impact those. If anything, when they increased it to $70, I know there's not an actual correlation between these two things, but it also
There's
that
no
was
way.
around the
There's
time.
no way they're making less money now. There's
There's
way.
none, and they still lay off people. And so, any price increase beyond the regular $60, I think, is on its face bullshit. And
Well,
the
argument immediately becomes from the executives. I would not personally make this argument, but the argument does immediately become, without that $70 increase, we would have laid off more people.
And my response to them was, before you even consider that, maybe take a pay cut, you greedy pig. And then they would.
No, I'm with
They'd
you on
probably
that.
be like, well, actually, the worst parts about these people that I'm sure if you talk to them on a face-to-face basis, they're polite, they're kind, but at the end of the day, deep within their soul, they're unempathetic. They probably care. I would assume they care less for human life than the average person does. And
Jesus
they're,
Christ.
yeah, I do. I don't think these people, as terms of human beings, should be given the benefit of the doubt of them being good people. Do I think we should harass them on that face alone? Maybe. Depends on what they do.
Hold on.
I'm saying if you're going like diddling kids, I think you could get some harassment on your way.
Yeah, sure, fine,
But
whatever.
bad business decisions like all of these all of these CEOs, Lars Wingefors do, we shouldn't give the perception that these guys are kind in any way. They're very, at the end of the day, they can cut people's jobs and just give, half-assed emails of like, sorry, my bad. I don't know. Like, think of the kind of person that could do that. Could you? On that level? Could I? I shouldn't.
Me? No.
Yeah.
But that's why we're not in there.
But I think most people couldn't do that. And you could still make hard decisions.
Yeah.
And not be just so totally ruthless with it. Because as we've covered, they don't take any pay cuts at all.
Okay, well, just to entertain this conversation and what's happening, we typically agree that Phil Spencer has been a shining light of an example of an executive in his position at Xbox.
Yes, and that studio, they haven't been known to lay off people in that.
They laid off people last year.
Yeah, and in those cases...
Now, granted, maybe that came down from Microsoft saying, hey, you have to cut a percentage. Because remember, Microsoft laid off, I believe the number was 10,000 people across all of its sectors. Fuck ton of fucking people. And then Xbox certainly felt that. There were layoffs at Xbox last year. There just were. But where does this conversation lie with Phil Spencer? If someone who we outwardly seems to have the best interest of his people and the best interest of gamers at heart, and I would say he does, and I would say he's one of the better examples of these executives that we're talking about out there. Where does the line get drawn for guys like him?
Well, you see, Phil Spencer, he's an exception. Lars Wingefors doesn't come out and establish that same camaraderie that Phil Spencer does.
I agree.
Yeah, and Phil Spencer on his own, you can talk to him on a more human level, since I actually see him as being one of those better people who, like I said, when you're at the head of a company, you got to make hard decisions. Layoffs are going to be included into that.
He also publicly ate some humble pie.
Yeah, he did. For Redfall.
Like it or not, buys him, my book, buys him respect.
And that's why you could talk to someone like him on a more human level. I think someone like Lars Wingefors, they just see dollar signs, and that's their prime goal. Phil Spencer clearly does as well. He has to.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have that position if he didn't. But I feel like you could argue with him or convince him to not only for him to take pay cuts, but all of the nameless, faceless board of directors who undoubtedly make a lot of money as well while you have layoffs going on. Really, like I said, he's an exception to that rule.
Well, he also surrounds himself with a team of people who are upfront and personable and who are relatable. You can name people over at the Xbox leadership side, whether it's Matt Booty, whether it's Sarah Bond, the stuff like that. Whereas like
Blizzard, and before they were acquired by Microsoft, Bobby Kotick, that was it.
It was Bobby Kotick just because he was at the front of the ship.
And then look at him, he's a scumbag. You can just look at him and tell that.
And he's out of here. Get him out of here.
Yeah, and he paid nothing for any of his stuff, which...
Listen, man, we gotta take what we can here in these
conversations.
conversations.
I take what we can, but I'm not going to be, happy and jumpy about it. But
that's fair. That's fair.
But
he's out of here.
He's out of here.
That's important. Let's take our W's where we can. Bobby Kotick out.
That is true. We don't have to hear about him being involved in the game sector anymore.
Now let's continue this conversation with one other step forward. A company that doesn't seem as bad to work for, but definitely still has its like little money grubby, selfish things that are going on. Jim Ryan, maybe.
Yeah, once again, that's another person. I used Lars Wingefors earlier.
Yeah.
He's another person. Unless I got like a better measure of him, I could once again say like, hey, don't you think that all of these layoffs are a little bit too heavy-handed, and you could start going into other directions? I would bring up the famous case of Nintendo, where they did take a pay cut.
Yeah.
Where, like, for example, those people, I could maybe not like them. I could see them as a bit more soulless in their decisions that they make, but ultimately, they didn't do. They did the best they could.
Nintendo has come out in front multiple times, eating humble pie, taking pay cuts, all of the above. And I would say Nintendo now is at the strongest point possibly than they've ever been before.
They are. And once again, there's so many goddamn layoffs. We just talk about them so much, I forget about them in the moment. Jim Ryan's PlayStation, were there any major layoffs happening related to them? Because I can't think
Oh, yeah, all the time. I mean, the part of the big Insomniac leak at the end of last year, we saw that Insomniac was being forced to lay off a percentage. I forget the number now, but was being forced to lay off, I think it was like 20%.
And you see, that's where the other issue comes up, because we know how good PS5 sales have been.
Yeah.
And so on the end of that, and another successful year, more successful than Microsoft, for example, of the games that you make selling well, why are you having layoffs? Why are those the first things you jump to?
Well, now again, that the conversation with PlayStation, I think, becomes very interesting and a little bit multifaceted. Well, I guess the whole conversation of every company is multifaceted because you have to consider all these angles.
Some less so than others, but still.
Yeah. Well, Jim Ryan's on his way out. You know, we've got an intermediate CEO of PlayStation Studios happening right now, and then we'll find someone else to fill that role. Hopefully, you hope from the gamer's perspective, it's not going to be another businessman like Jim Ryan. Jim Ryan, not a gamer. Not for him. He's a guy. He's a businessman. He's out here to make a buck. Now, his tenure at PlayStation and as CEO of SIE, I think overall has been a positive one. You know, he took over during the PS4 or near the launch of the PS4 generation, or something like that. So the start of the PS4 generation, not necessarily his doing, but the last half certainly is because of him. And I think, you know, you look at examples of Last of Us Part 2, of Ghost of Tsushima, of Horizon Forbidden West, God of War, both God of Wars, and you would say, hey, that's a successful run company. Santa Monica, again, putting out Valhalla for free. That's under Jim Ryan's watch. You know, Jim Ryan could have come down and said, no, players have to pay $20 for this. And we all would have gladly paid for that. But it was free, and that's under Jim Ryan's watch. But then you also, so you see all this success, and you go, oh, well, that makes sense. But then you also see PlayStation Studios announcing that they've got 12 live service games under the hood, and then now that's been dialed back to 6, and so forth. But now you look at things, and a lot of great acquisitions: the Insomniac acquisition, the development of Haven Studios, the Blue Point acquisition. These are great acquisitions in theory. Of course, you know, now we look back on it, and reportedly Insomniac's got to, you know, dial down their staff, which is unfortunate after making 3 back-to-back, 4 back-to-back anger hits. I just keep thinking of them. You know, Spider-Man, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, Spider-Man Miles Morales, Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man Remastered, if you want to even throw that title in there. You know, that made them money for sure. You know, Insomniac continues to be this money generator, and to have them, you know, have layoffs is questionable at best. And then you look at all these live service titles. All of this is from the efforts of a Jim Ryan, from Jim Ryan coming down and saying, hey, go make these games. And then now we look at Naughty Dog and how they were going to lead the charge with their Last of Us multiplayer title. That has been canceled now. So now it's a question of like, all right, well, how healthy was that guy for this business?
Yeah.
I would say overall net positive, but definitely some choices made that I hope there's a pivot.
Well, we'll have to see whoever comes in to replace him.